All right, Stochastic, here we go. It's your old pal Emac coming to you on a Saturday afternoon here as we have three separate featured slates across the main MLB sites. No NBA today. Everybody gets a respite until chaos tomorrow. We have one wave of games going off at 1, second wave of games going off at 3:30. The Western Conference up at the top is chaotic, to say the least. Was a fun night last night. Tonight we got UFC, we've got the Masters going on, all sorts of sports here. Mr. Ehrenberg, what is your favorite sport going today? Is it UFC or UFC or baseball perhaps? What do you got for us?
Yeah, it's pretty clearly UFC 300 for me. I've been looking forward to this for a very long time. And I think probably the biggest debate would be if this was the final round of the Masters, with it being like, would I rather watch UFC 300 or the final round of the Masters? But yeah, for me, it's UFC 300. And this is a pretty nuts sports week in terms of we had the college men's national championship game, the college women's national championship game, which had insane viewership. I remember from reading it, I think it was like, it pulled bigger numbers than any of the recent men's NCAA final games. It pulled bigger numbers than any of the World Series games, pulled bigger numbers than any of the NBA finals games last year. So that ended up being a really big sporting event. We got UFC 300, the Masters, and the NBA regular season ending tomorrow, which not necessarily a monumental sporting event, but matters for us. It's a bookend to a season.
Yeah, absolutely. So lots of fun here. Good fight card. Even I'm kind of intrigued a little bit by it. That doesn't mean I'll get the pay-per-view. I did stay up late the last 2 nights, Greg. Had some fun. It was the last NBA big slates. So I thought, oh, okay, well, I'll have some fun. And then I was actually doing relatively well. Do you know what you want, a bad beat story or a not winning story? Yahoo, where the only place where you can be a baller, Greg. I entered my weekly lineup for the Friday free roll, and I only entered like 2 or 3 other contests. I had set an alarm for 6:20, and it was supposed to remind me to go look at Yahoo because they were starting at 6:40 yesterday, and I knew there would be overlay on their big contest because no one's thinking about it. My alarm went off. I assumed it was just in case I took a nap. Forgot about it. Realized at 6:41 when my phone says, "Oh, your contests are starting," that I missed it. I ended up scoring like 203.7 points. I would have finished second if I had entered the baller. Instead, I won the quarter contest. I got third in the free roll. It was, what could have been, Greg. That was about a $2,500 swing just because I got caught up in what my alarm meant.
Yeah, I was gonna ask. I have no clue. I haven't looked at Yahoo in forever, so I don't know what the contests pay out there. But yeah, listen, that's shame on you for taking a nap, Emac. No more napping.
Yeah. Very sad. Very sad. All right. Come on, guys. You guys are taking the nap. There we go. Yes. The nap symbol. I'm taking that as a compliment, not that you guys are bored. But let's get into the fun here. Slates 3.
Let's see. Are you muted?
Now? No, I was muted.
There we go. So that's easy solution. You just had to unmute yourself. By the way, also, so we have the show streaming right now on YouTube, also on playback, and the screen sharing is going to happen on the playback side of things, not YouTube. Also, if there is demand for it, I'll stick around after the baseball show ends to answer any questions you guys have about UFC 300 or anything else that maybe you want to talk about the later baseball slate. So if you guys do have interest in that, I'll answer questions in playback. If not, also totally cool, and I won't stick around. But if you guys want it, that's something that we can do as well.
All righty. So let's do a little pitchers. We'll do some stacks. We'll answer some questions. Lineups are continuing to come in. I think we're missing 8 still. DraftKings is locking at 110 today. The FanDuel slate is locking at, their main slate, let me get over that, it's going to be 405. And then Yahoo is going with, I think, 640 or 610. Not that anybody cares about Yahoo, but there we go. And it's all about me today, Greg. It's not my birthday. It's my birthday month, though, but it's still going to be all about me. All righty, let's look at some of our pitchers here. A lot of choices, which makes this one a fun one. A lot of good ones in that 4 o'clock game. We also have a couple good ones in the earlier game. We've got the 2 doubleheaders today. You've got the Twins in Detroit playing a doubleheader, and then you have the Yankees in Cleveland playing a doubleheader. So the Joe Ryan Kenta Maeda, that's really only available on the DraftKings featured slate. It's available on the other sites, but they're, the FanDuel all day contests are just for tickets, and Yahoo's they're very, very small. So those are 2 key arms. Same thing with Sean Manaea going against the Royals, only available on that DraftKings slate. And then Nick Lodolo is someone who is also interesting. He is coming off injury here. I actually recommend taking the under on his 6.5 strikeouts, Greg. He hasn't pitched since in the big league since last May. He suffered a stress fracture in his left tibia, which ultimately ended up shutting him down for the season. And then he missed he missed the last year as well. Mm-hmm. So it's been a while since he has pitched. He was very, very talented, 10 plus strikeouts per 9 innings rate, just crazy numbers. I don't think he's going to get enough pitches today to get to the 7 that was needed on that. So that number is probably moving me down. But could he roll through the Chicago White Sox lineup? Yeah, he could. But it's really those the Paul DeJong, the Dominic Fletcher, Martin Maldonado. They're the main strikeouts, and they're at the bottom of the order. He may not get to him twice, but he is someone that we will want to look at. He did pitch 2 rehab starts and was okay in the minors. There's no need to push him too much because Cincinnati looks like they have a pretty good team this year. But that's what I wanted to give my thoughts there on Lodolo. What do you like or not like? Are you getting any of the early players here? And then we can consolidate on the 4 o'clock pitchers. But are you getting many of the Joe Ryans, Kenta Maedas, etc. in your Sims run?
All right. So I don't really care when players start today. It just doesn't make a difference to me. If a player starts
I was trying to grouping the analysis because then FanDuel and DK together.
Let me look. What are I didn't think about the start times of all the players.
Yep. So it's the 4 are Joe Ryan, Kenta Maeda, Sean Manaea, and Nick Lodolo. They're the main ones that are not going to appear on FanDuel.
All right. So if we're just talking about early pitchers, the one that I am getting to the most of is Sean Manaea. Also, my pitcher exposure is probably as spread out as I have ever had on any baseball slate that I've built lineups for, which I think is just going to happen a lot this year. And it's same talking points we brought up on previous shows, but just because of the lack of elite starting pitchers, when I run stuff through the Sims now, like I'm just getting relatively spread out at pitcher. I don't have a single pitcher on this slate, Emac, with more than 30% exposure to. But of the pitchers I'm the closest to 30% on, one of them is Sean Manaea, who's my most rostered pitcher going for the early slate right now. And Sean Manaea is off to a pretty good start this year. He was very good earlier in his career pitching for the Oakland A's. They need a little bit of a dip, and it seems like he's starting to put it back together. It's small sample sizes so far, and I'm trying to pull up his numbers right now on FanGraphs. I've had this weird thing at the start of every show this year where FanGraphs is just like really slow out of the gate. And then once I go on a few pages, starts running a little bit quicker, but whatever. It's something that's preventing me from pulling up Sean Manaea's numbers as I would like to right now. Is this a me problem, or have you also found that FanGraphs run slower this year?
No, I've been paying, I pay the $50 to go ad free. So it hasn't been much of an issue.
So I didn't even think it was an ad thing. It's just the pages are slow to load. But either way, Sean Manaea, there are a couple of positives here. Most notably is that when he first started to struggle coming back from a shoulder injury a couple of years ago, we saw a decrease in fastball velocity for Manaea. His average fastball was a little bit over 90 miles per hour. And then last year he saw an uptick, but he also made a bunch of appearances out of the bullpen. So it was kind of hard to know, like, did his velocity increase because he was in a better spot health-wise? Was it a result of him pitching out of the bullpen? But now so far in this year, and it's only 2 starts, so that sample size is small, but I do take his velocity increase to be meaningful. He is averaging a fast velocity of 93.6 miles per hour, And that to me is not really a small sample size thing. That's just a guy who's healthy and is throwing the ball with harder velocity like he did a few years ago prior to undergoing a shoulder surgery. And overall for the year, 0.82 ERA, 3.69 expected ERA with the fastball velocity up. He is generating a strikeout rate of 34.1%. So if we're talking about just the early pitchers here, to your question, Emac, I think the best one is Sean Manaea. The field is also getting there, but I think it's understandably so.
Yeah, and that's the guy that's popping up for me. I will cap it somewhat just because I don't want to. Right now, he's in 50% of my lineups. I don't want that. That was an unencumbered simulation. I like you. Well, I do like you, but similar to you, I will be probably capping pitchers around 30%. I've noticed that hasn't been too much of an issue for baseball when utilizing the sims. It just naturally sort of takes care of it and doesn't put you too strongly onto anybody unless they seem to have a ridiculous ROI, which does happen from time to time when you get those $7,000 or $8,000 pitchers on DK where they're close to a positive ROI and it just pushes them into most of your simulations.
So and then also it's not that I'm looking at the slate and saying, because I see like Dan 06712 in chat said, I prefer to spread it out. One pitcher can ruin your whole day if it goes bad. I don't mind having 100% or 80 or 90% of a pitcher if I think it's warranted. It's just not a circumstance that has popped up this year, and it certainly doesn't come up on this particular slate either.
Yeah, that is fair. And sort of to Dan's point there, I like spreading the pitchers out somewhat, but there are going to be spots, and that's also a function of the two pitcher sites. When I'm playing on FanDuel, a lot of times I'm only playing 3-4 pitchers tops across my whole portfolio. Now I haven't done FanDuel Sims yet this year, but I will be this afternoon since there's no NBA. But that was an approach I took last year on FanDuel. Yeah, I like Yahoo and DraftKings because two pitchers provides more differentiation, other opportunities, etc. So on those, I like to be a little more spread out with my options. I see where it comes in first, and then I make some decisions. Is that good? Is that bad? I don't know. It has worked for me for a long time. I've noticed some things that I thought were working suddenly were way better when I started using the Sims. So, some of those, what we thought were tried and true DFS rules are not really as sticky as we thought. And you get to see that through the simulations when it's running things 30, 40,000 times and seeing different things. So some of the must stack 4-4 or must stack 5-3 things, not necessarily true. It's kind of interesting. Moving on to some of our other pitching options here. The guy that's popping up for me a lot is Ryan Pepiot. So he is in Tampa Bay. He's pitching about 30 miles from me today. So good luck to him. Taking on the San Francisco Giants, 3.9 implied run total here. The interesting thing about Pepiot is he's had 2 starts this season. In each game, he threw exactly 94 pitches. So that's important for FanDuel because it means he should be able to qualify for the quality start. And that's worth bonus points there. And that is something that's that you want to make sure you have a pitcher that's going to have the opportunity to that. So he was okay in his first start. And then last Sunday, he went into Coors Field, struck out 11 in 6 scoreless innings, allowed only 3 hits in Coors Field. So the Giants are a little more formidable than the Rockies, but good pitching spot here in Tropicana Field. And the strikeout potential that Pepiot has, in my opinion, has him above Logan Webb for me. That his counterpart that he's going against, Webb, has that elite, not quite Framber Valdez, but in the 60% ground ball rate, but his strikeouts usually go about 8 per 9 innings. They come and go. He's happier just to get those ground balls. He had one pretty good strikeout season. The rest of the time he's okay, but because of that ground ball rate, it keeps his salary high because he doesn't tend to get blown up, but he doesn't have the strikeout consistency to constantly return that upside value at his salary. So that's where I kind of like Pepiot a little bit here, but both those guys are somewhat intriguing. Do you have thoughts on that duo?
Yeah. So there are a handful of pitchers that I have north of 15% exposure to, and nobody over 30%. And I didn't do this by design. It wasn't like I'm trying to force myself to be spread out in the Sims, just kind of the way everything came out when I ran data through it. Pepio is one of the pitchers that I'm also getting to on the slate as one of the pitchers who's like really a big piece of my lineups. And at first glance, he does have a 4.63 ERA. Some bad luck is involved there, though. Most notably, a 52.1% strand rate, which has inflated his ERA. If he is letting somebody get on base, more often than not, they have ended up scoring against Ryan Pepio when they've gotten to base, which is definitely a little bit fluky because generally you would expect a left on base rate to be closer to like 70% or something along those lines. And then if you look at Ryan Pepio's underlying numbers so far, 2.1 expected ERA, 2.99 FIP. Last year, he pitched 42 innings at the big leagues. He had a 2.14 ERA, a 3.23 expected ERA. The year before, when he was with the Dodgers in the big leagues, he had 3.47 ERA, 4.31 expected ERA. And if you look at all his projection numbers this year, he projects as a guy who's going to be around a strikeout per inning with an ERA in like the high 9 range. So I think Pepio is a pitcher that profiles pretty well overall. And then as far as the matchup for Pepio today as well, and then also including some of the projection numbers that we have, we've got Pepio as one of the more popular pitchers on the slate, but it's 20.3% ownership. So nothing really crazy or anything like that. Pitching at home, pitcher-friendly ballpark, a Giants team, which is a good but not great offense, somewhere around the middle of the road. Yeah, I'm with you. I think Pepio is one of the guys we should be getting to.
Right. Just remind everybody, we are in playback here. That's where we're doing the screen share, just dropping the link in there. Of course, you guys can still watch us on YouTube, absolutely. But if you want to see the screen share with some of the tools that producer Jacob has up there, that would be the place to do it for that. So another player who is coming up as a strong-ish option is Chris Sale. Now, this is no longer, apex Chris Sale, but he does have a matchup today against the Miami Marlins, who have been a bottom of the barrel offense, and they've also lost a couple players to injury, so they're not looking like they're going to have a good season. Greg, it's a little sad for those in South Florida. But if we start to look at Sale, is he someone that you feel good about? It's probably easier to just take the raw numbers and not look at the name associated with him for all of those flashbacks. But how do you feel about Chris Sale?
I like how you become a Florida elitist where you're like, hey, I'm close to Tampa Bay. And you're like, well, those South Floridas, they can't be all that happy with their Miami Marlins, even your Costa Rica shirt over there, Emac. So Chris Sale, the number one positive that I'm taking out of Chris Sale so far this year is the velocity, because there's only so much we can infer from a 10-inning sample size, but his velocity is 95.2 miles per hour. Do you know how long it's been since this was his average fastball velocity, Mac? The last time we saw Chris Sale with an average fastball velocity of 95.2 miles per hour is back in 2018. That has to mean something, because other previous seasons we saw where he was dealing with injuries and whatnot, his fastball velocity was in the 93 mile per hour range. So the fact that we're seeing him like 2 to 1.5 miles per hour, throwing the ball harder to open up the season, is it going to be healthy midway through the season? That's very dicey to me, and the answer is probably not. But at least for now, there are a lot of positive signs as far as his health goes, and he's a pitcher who is still generating a lot of swing and misses. That's something we've seen out of him, even in the down years where Chris Sale has struggled. He's still generated strikeouts over the last couple of years. So, yeah, Chris Sale is one of 4 pitchers that are in 22% or more of my lineups right now. So I think we should be getting to Sale for a couple of reasons. Number one, I think there's reason to feel good about his health. And like you mentioned too, it's a really good matchup against the Miami Marlins, whose offense has been terrible so far this year. They were miserable against left-hand pitching last year. There's a lot of strikeouts to be had in the lineup. And on top of all that, in our top pitchers tool, we do have Chris Sale with the highest projected odds to be the top scoring pitcher on the slate.
You know what's a little bit shocking? I'm looking here at his obviously his Fangraphs page, but looking at his xERA, his FIP, his xFIP, he has been actually good. I'm thinking maybe some of our flashback issues. Now, he's had some injuries. He only made 9 starts in 2021. He only made 2 in 2022. So it's been a little bit of a while. And he's down from his apex levels in his Chicago White Sox days. But I guess it's not quite as scary as I had thought. I must have selective memory in counting on him in some key spots where he didn't let come through for me, Greg. But it actually is not as frightening as I thought it would be. Not like a Griffin Canning per se. Let's see. Going back here, take a peek at the top pitchers tool here. See who else is up near the top. Oh, Mackenzie Gore. We haven't talked about him very much. I've got some thoughts on Mackenzie Gore here. So he is he came over in that Juan Soto deal. That was part of the maneuvering that the Nationals did when they were dismantling their World Series team. So he's actually been interesting. He gets a day where it's going to be relatively cool. It is going to be damp. There is rain in the forecast, both in Oakland and in Los Angeles. I think they should be able to get the games in, but we'll have to keep an eye on that. But it's decent weather for the pitchers. In this one, temperatures are going to be in the mid 50s. So the A's thus far this season have a bottom 5 offense with the 79 WRC plus. So weighted runs created plus. It's an advanced metric that neutralizes a bunch of variables like defense, ballpark factor, etc., and just sort of says, here is a league-wide scoring efficiency baseline of 100. So if you're at 79, what that means is you're creating runs 21% less than other teams in that particular situation. So they're among the low side here. The other thing that's interesting with Gore is last year home runs became a real problem. 1.78 per 9 innings. Still had good strikeouts, but that was a little bit of a surprise. Hopefully that's just noise. It's something that will go back down, but we know that sometimes young lefties have a challenge when they just face endless right-hand lineups with above average power in the majors, right? It's one thing in college, it's one thing in the minors, but in the majors, everybody can hit your mistakes. So that's something we see a lot. So the Athletics projected lineup, a 126 isolated power. That's anemic. That's like me and Greg potentially being in the lineup there. Just no bueno there. So as long as
wait. You mean to tell me while I'm wearing the most glorious of glorious Lilo and Stitch shirts that I don't look powerful to you?
Not exactly as a 50-year-old person wearing a silly looking monkey on his Costa Rica coconuts t-shirt here. So.
You're wearing a Costa Rica monkey shirt. I'm wearing a shirt with, what is this?
I call that your pajama shirt, but it is technically a shirt, I believe. Not entirely sure. I still think it's a pajama shirt. But anyway, Shea Langeliers, JD Davis, and Abraham Toro are the only concerning bats, and those guys, well, Langeliers would make most teams. The other two guys are well-traveled nomadic baseball players who've been with a lot of organizations. So I like Mackenzie Gore in this particular one. So for me, it's kind of the Manaea more than I expected, Sale, Gore, Pepio, and then a little bit of Webb. Is there anybody else that's coming in through your pitchers, or is there anybody else we should comment on here?
Yeah, so I think we should talk a little bit more about Mackenzie Gore and then try to figure out who we would want to roster in a cash game on DraftKings, because it is pretty difficult to figure out which two pitchers you feel the best about in a cash game, considering how spread out the ownership is. But we're talking about some of the core pitchers that I'm getting to before. And yeah, for sure, one of them is going to be Mackenzie Gore for me. You mentioned the matchup that he has. It's a pretty favorable one going up against, let's see, what are the pitcher odds as well? Yeah, so in his matchup against the Oakland A's, we've got Mackenzie Gore at the 4th best odds, being one of the top 2 scoring pitchers. But then also, when you look at some of the other numbers when it comes to Mackenzie Gore, velocity solid, generating a lot of strikeouts. And to your point before, Emac, yeah, home runs have always been an issue for him, but how much of an issue are they against the Oakland A's? And in Oakland, it's definitely going to mitigate a lot of that issue that he had last year. He had an 18.2% home run to fly ball rate. He's also a pitcher only has a 32% ground ball rate this year. So a lot of balls getting hit in the air against him. Not really the team I think is going to be able to take advantage of that. So you got a guy, Mackenzie Gore, is like a slightly above league average pitcher, but is even better for that for fantasy purposes because of the amount of swing and misses and strikeouts that he generates, 26% so far this year. And that's what it was last year as well. So yeah, Mackenzie Gore, that's another one of the guys that I'm getting to over 20% of on DK. And I think he's a very, very strong cash game consideration. If I was building a cash game lineup and entering it right now, I think the pitchers would be Sean Manaea and Mackenzie Gore. Is that where you think you would go with your two DraftKings cash game pitchers? Because There's not like one guy you look at and be like, oh, that's the guy today.
I think I would go Gore and Pepio. Would be the two that I would go with. And so for DK Cash, I haven't been playing as much this year because all the sports were in play. Now that we're winding down, things will be a lot, and with NBA's insanity, it'll be a lot easier. I like to play the single entry, for cash games, like they're $25 50-50 and they're $10 50-50. I usually build what I call, it's my main lineup, which in baseball is not. I mean, cash in baseball is not like NBA or even NFL. And my point here is I don't mind if I am different on the pitchers than the rest of the field. I'm okay with that. So I don't always look for the two most popular pitchers, etc. More often than not, I'm going to land on at least one of them, and that's why I like the two pitcher sites. But I like today, I can tell that most optimizers are going to put Gore and Manaea in there. I'm totally fine going with Pepio instead. It's just something I've become comfortable with, and I'd like to explore that a little more with the DK Cash. I played it for about 2 months towards the end of last season until NFL started getting it in. But it's an interesting strategy because or it shouldn't be, but the lineup trains that end up in the back half of the season in MLB is ridiculous. I get it in NBA, but in MLB, embrace the variance. So I enjoy when I don't have a duplicated lineup in those. So that was kind of a strategy for me. That's all we're doing for the MLB strategy show. Back to the live before lock here portion of this. Anything else dipping down on the pitchers, or shall we transition over to the stacks?
We got a couple questions in Discord, so we can answer those right now. There's also a couple contrarian pitchers that I'm getting some exposure to, so we'll talk about them in a second. But first, Hey, I'm Drew95 did ask, who are the DK cash game locks for pitchers and stacks? Honestly, I hesitate to generally call anybody a lock for a baseball cash game. For basketball, there's usually guys like you have to play them in cash. Right. I don't know if there's anybody I look at in cash games today and say like you absolutely have to play any particular person. I did say that Sean Manaea and Mackenzie Gore are my two preferred pitching options at cash, but I don't think either of them are pitchers you absolutely have to play.
Yeah, I think it's really 5 you can pick from today. And that would be Sale, Gore, Pepio, Webb, Manaea.
Yeah, I don't even know. I mean, I would say Joe Ryan, Ryan Pepio, Chris Sale, Mackenzie Gore, Sean Manaea. Those are the 5 that I would consider for cash games. And then as far as the other standpoint, he wants to know if there's a stack that we really like for cash games. Yeah, I mean, if you're going to be looking at one particular offense to build your cash game lines on, I think it has to be the Angels.
Angels or Boston? Did we have the Boston lineup yet? I'm guessing that Devers is not going to play. Oh, we do have that lineup. He's not in there. I love Tristan Casas, my home run of the day. So that has me heading towards Boston for the stack for cash. And are they asking for a stack in cash? So here's the interesting thing. I usually don't stack. I don't make it a point of stacking, but I typically end up with 3 or 4 hitters against one of the worst pitchers. So again, when I build out my cash lineup, I'll put it in anything because it should have enough upside to win or do well in tournaments and not just be a min cash thing. But I don't try to stack, but I usually end up with 2 or 3 players that are correlated.
And I don't think you should stack in cash. I think there are individual hitters where it's just they're picking up so much ownership for a particular reason because of what the matchup is. So like it makes sense to be the team that you target. So like what Emac said, you might just end up with a cash stack if it's just the team is like drastically underpriced. But in general, I don't think you should be stacking in MLB cash games.
Yeah. And that's where and sometimes you can really paint yourself into a corner because you end up like somebody with Boston, they're expensive, or Casas and Bobby Dahlbeck both first base. How's that going to work, right? It's just I don't know. I don't worry about that part as much. But again, two or three guys usually end up because you're just like, I want to go against this pitcher. But you don't want to go overboard because there's so many other things to think about, such as who has some stolen base upside, a power one-off from another game, right? Those things are way more valuable than stacking in your cash game tournaments. So, because again, you're really only trying to get above the 50th percentile. You don't have to absolutely crush the competition.
And then COVID Bryant II asked us, who is our favorite pitcher price agnostic? So if we were just saying, which pitcher do we think scores the most fantasy points on the slate, Emac? We're not going to take price or anything into consideration. Just who is our overall favorite pitcher? What would you answer for that?
Probably Joe Ryan.
Chris Sale for me. If it's just who scores the most fantasy points in all likelihood, I'm going to go Chris Sale as my answer to that question.
Right, and then let's just quickly look at the bargain bin here. What do we have? I saw someone asking about Ronel Blanco. Fantastic that he had the no-hitter. Amazing that he did like 6 innings of 1 or 2 hit ball in the following start, or whatever it was.
One hit.
Oh, was it 1 hit?
They left him in until he lost another no-hitter, and then they took him out, which I assume the manager was relieved about, because he's like, I don't want to leave him in to throw 130 pitches or something again after the last, especially because the Astros starting pitching has been so terrible. Here's something else to consider about Ronel Blanco. I understand people are going to want to play him. He's gotten off to a ridiculously good start to the season, but this is an unranked prospect who's never been good in the past and is in his 30s now. The idea that he's all of a sudden become considerably better at age 30 is unlikely to me. I think we've just seen a handful of innings where he's benefited from a lot of good luck. By a lot of good luck, do you know what his BABIP is for the year, Emac?
Well, if you're saying a lot of good luck, it's going to be like, what, 180 or something like that? Yeah.
It's 29, 0.029, which that's because the way that he's pitched no-hitters and limited hits, he's not generating strikeouts. He's just giving up contact, and the ball happens to be hit 2 fielders. Like, there's nothing about this that is replicable, nor does it even look all that great from a fantasy standpoint when you just look at his numbers, because he's not getting strikeouts, and he's walking a bunch of guys as well. That's something else that he's been doing. Is maybe this has been as a result of him not wanting to give up hits, but when he falls behind in counts, he's just walking guys this year, which is one way to kind of lower your hits number there. But yeah, you look at the strikeout rate for Blanco this year, he has a 21% strikeout rate. He has an 11.5% walk rate. And that's pretty much in line with his career. For his entire career, he has a 22% strikeout rate and a 12% walk rate. So I don't think this is a guy who profiles as a very good fantasy producer at all. Good on him for getting off to a good start to the season and not giving up any hits for the first 15 innings he pitched or something like that. But it's mostly luck-based. I would feel different about it if it was like, hey, the guy's throwing a lot harder and he's generating a bunch more swing and misses and strikeouts. He's not. He's just giving up contact that's being hit at guys.
All right. Well, as far as fantasy producers, I would take Jacob for sure. And then maybe Jordan. I'm going with Jacob first. Ronel Blanco? No, not so much. You know what, Greg? How would you like to learn how to make $500?
Teach me.
Would you like that? Well, you can go underneath a bridge. You got to get a
nice.
Sign. Okay.
By the way, I'm gonna give you a little tip here because I know about your past. What people don't recognize about the way to get the most bang for your buck and really maximize your time, you got multiple holes there, Emac. If you could take advantage of all of them at once, I mean, why take one payday when you can get 5 of them at a time?
Double headers, triple headers, you got to do what you got to do. In any event, when you're not multitasking, the easy way to get a quick $500 is to double your first deposit with Better. That is BETR Better. That is the presenting sponsor of the show. Your first deposit will be matched up to $500. Fun things over there. You can build out your prop cards to win up to 100 times your entry if you get all 8 of them correct. If you don't like ties and pushes, the key thing is there are no pushes allowed. Better will not land. There will always be a hook on whatever it is that they are doing, so there will not be a tie or a push. They've got NBA, MLB, NHL going on right now. Of course, there's NFL. It's a lot of fun over there, but that is one of the few sites giving a $500 deposit match. Those are rare. they are few and far between. Definitely take advantage of that. You can go in the YouTube description below us here and go through our link. Key things to remember: the legal age for gambling in most states is 21 or older. And if you or someone you know has a gambling problem, please call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. To the stacks we go. What stacks?
You forgot something very important about Better. They've got a free square today.
Oh,
more than 0.5 significant strikes for Alex Pereira. So if you guys do play over on Better, and also to get the deposit bonus, I was told this, Emac, the trackable links don't really work at Better. So you have to enter the promo code Greg when you go and sign up. But yeah, they have 0.5 significant strikes as the line over on Better today. So if you guys just want a free square that's for sure going to win, sign up at Better and play Alex Pereira over 0.5 significant strikes. Just to land one strike today, and that's going to end up winning.
And what was that promo code again?
It's Greg, like my name, GREG.
Yes. And do not do EMAC. That is not a promo code. Greg is the promo code. So, all righty. Are we ready to talk about stacks, good sir?
Yep, we can go ahead and start talking about some stacks here next.
All right. So I hinted at Boston being the stack I was interested in. I was pretty sure that Devers was going to be out just based on the news. They had targeted him to return today. He's dealing with some shoulder discomfort. But then last night in the press conference, the manager said, well, I'm not so sure it'll be this weekend. So that doesn't matter because Tristan Casas is profiling incredibly well against Griffin Canning. Tyler O'Neill in the righty-righty matchup, even better. He actually has a 223 ISO in his last 222 plate appearances against righties. Canning has allowed a 236 ISO in his last 277 matchups against righties. That is a phenomenal thing to see there. You've got Jalen Duran up at the top. He is also good for stolen bases. He should get 5 plate appearances today. The value averaging down is the Willier Abreu being in the lineup. That will give you a little bit of salary savings there. At outfield, that's a guy you can punt with in those cash game lineups. That is one thing I do a lot, as well as I do end up with a cheaper hitter, especially someone like that is in a decent situation, batting second. I'll take it. He could be a pinch hit risk. I'm doubtful that the Angels bring in too many lefties, though. But I think he is in a good spot. So it's really consolidated up at the top with Yoshida, Casas, and Duran. I think you could add in if you wanted Bobby Dahlbeck, but he's had a lot of issues like putting the bat on the ball. Kind of a problem when you can't do that, but he has tremendous power. That's probably my favorite stack in the non-Atlanta category. What's bubbling up for you there?
Yeah, so looking at by the way, somebody was asking about I think somebody was asking about Yariel Rodriguez. Andrew Heaney is starting today.
Did I say Jalen Duran? I can't believe I did that.
I think somebody was asking about Rodriguez.
Jaron Duran. Sorry. I'm thinking of it's basketball, and I'm old.
Yeah, for the ranked depositor. Yeah, Andrew Heaney is starting for the Rangers today. So just something to keep in mind. I wouldn't start somebody who's not going to be the starting pitcher today. So sorry, what was the question again, Emac?
Oh no, I had said Jalen Duran instead of Jaron Duran because I'm.
Oh, gotcha.
I need that ginkgo biloba infused Metamucil. That's what I need. So anyway, back to the stacks here. We don't have the Atlanta lineup, but of course they are going to look amazing every day. The Texas lineup, I think, is interesting against Blanco. We are still waiting for that lineup. If we go up to the games where we do have some lineups, the Mets are a little bit intriguing, especially when you can get Brandon Nimmo, Francisco Lindor, and Pete Alonso. They're going to be great against any pitchers. But then you add in Brett Baty, who looks good when he gets the platoon advantage. He's an occasional pinch hit risk, but I think he's going to end up playing more this season. It's not quite that the whole Dan Vogelbach split platooning type stuff this year. So I think he is someone who is intriguing, and he's just 3,200. He'd be another good cash game one-off on DK there. Who's popping up in your sims? I'm going to do one more run of mine here since we got 2 more lineups since I last did it.
Yeah. So as far as the offense, I'm getting to the most today. There are only 2 offenses that I have double-digit exposure to. One of them is the New York Mets, which I feel a little bit like Josh because yesterday also the Mets were a team that I was landing on a little bit in lineups. But yeah, so the Mets are one of the teams that I'm getting to. And a lot of that's because I don't think the Mets offense is good overall. They do have individual hitters that I think are very talented on the Mets. Overall lineup, terrible. The good thing about that, though, is we don't have to roster the entire lineup for DFS purposes. And they draw themselves a pretty good matchup against Alec Marsh. So Alec Marsh is not good at all, in my opinion. His numbers haven't been terrible so far this year, but he does have a 4.54 expected ERA. If you look at Alec Marsh last year, who did make 17 appearances from the Royals, he had a 5.69 ERA, a 5.92 expected ERA. In Double-A last year, Alec Marsh made 11 Double-A starts. He had a 5.32 ERA and a 4.07 FIP last year in Double-A as a minor league pitcher. So I know a lot of people are going to be like, well, the Mets are terrible. Not only is Alec Marsh terrible, he wasn't even able to get out hitters in Double-A last year, and the Mets are certainly better than a Double-A offense. All the projection models very low on Marsh this year. The best projection on him on any model for the rest of the season, Zips has him with a 4.83 ERA. Then on the low end, the Bat has him with a Fairtown level as a pitcher with a 5.49 ERA this year. So I think Alec Marsh is a very gettable starting pitcher in terms of his potential ability to give up a bunch of runs in this spot. There's really not all that much ownership to be concerned with. The Angels are projected for 14% ownership as a team on DraftKings. That's a significant number. There's not another offense on the slate with even more than 8% projected ownership. So the Mets are the team that I'm prioritizing the most against Alec Marsh.
Are you terrified of not getting to any particular team as a stack? Since you're so dispersed, is there one you feel you might be overlooked, or the Sims may be overlooking, or you may be overlooking?
So I'm underweight to the Angels. The Angels are my 3rd most rostered team. I'm underweight to them, but it's really just because they're 14% owned as a team. But it's hard for me to say that I'm like concerned about that. The hitter I do have the most of, no surprise, is Mike Trout. He's in 19% of my lineups, but I'm okay with having, 8% Angel stacks opposed to the 14% the field has. Other than that, though, it's hard to look at the ownership and be like, oh my God, I can't believe I don't have this team, because the ownership is so spread out. There is no real chalk. There are no pitchers that stand out above all the others on today's slate. There are no stacks that stand out above all the others. So that's where I'm really relying on the Sims and entering data and just seeing like, all right, what is this telling me as far as what the best spots are to be getting to? Because you can make a case for a lot of individual teams, but there's no spot where it's like, hey, look, here's a Coors Field game where this team has a 6.7 implied team total. We have the highest projected scoring team on the slate. Yeah, here are all the teams we've projected in our top stacks tool to score north of 5 runs today. The Angels, the Red Sox, the Blue Jays, the Astros, the Braves. Those 5 teams expected to score 5+ runs, and that's it. It's not a spot. It's not a slate with like predominant spots.
So interestingly enough, my most leveraged hitter is Dalton Varsho right now, followed by Vladimir Guerrero.
As far as somebody who you are overweight to or
overweight
underweight?
To the field.
Yeah, I'm quite a bit overweight to Dalton Varsho as well, because I mean, like I said, there's only 2 stacks I have double-digit exposure to. One of them are the Mets, and one of them are the Toronto Blue Jays. So I'm assuming that you're getting to a good amount of Blue Jay stacks as well, then.
Yeah, it's George Springer is coming in a lot. Former All-Star Dan Vogelbach batting cleanup there. Always makes me happy to say that. Former All-Star. Sometimes the All-Star, pretty funny who wins them from time to time. Yeah, that was a little bit surprising. The other thing I'm well below the field on Joe Ryan and Logan Webb, which I was surprised on. So I may tick Ryan up just a little bit because I do like the matchup against Detroit here, the Motor City Kitties. We can definitely pick on them. Let's see. I'm liking these Sims. Greg. This is old dog new tricks here, but it is making lineup building a lot easier. I will say the usability of them very nice. We did a user interface upgrade over the at some point this week, so it's very visually appealing now as well, or even fancier than it was. This is a pretty nifty thing. So I used them for basketball. It took me a little while to get into them. I'm loving them for baseball. I'm about a week into them here as well. I don't know why I'm a late adopter, but I'm getting with the program. I'm getting with the program.
Yeah, Franco, if you want to see the sim, because he was asking what it is, it's up in playback right now. And if you wouldn't mind, Jacob, just dropping the link in there, you can see it on screen. Our MLB simulations, which are on the page over there. We also got a super chat from Ace of Spade, if you saw.
I did not see it. What is it? What could he possibly be asking?
He wants to know about DK tiers.
All righty. Man after my own heart. So let me get these uploaded. Now, the key thing you want to know in tiers for DK is you want to look for stacking possibilities because the synergy is there. Unlike baseball, probably unlike basketball, where you're really looking at mostly the raw projections and trying to determine, who is a tick behind the more popular play, and you go after them for leverage. You really can stack in this one. It's all hitters, which one year they did for like 2 weeks. They did all pitchers, and that was so much fun. And then they got rid of that. Very, very sad times. But let me get this uploaded here and just see if there are any stacks that sort of pop up or where we can gain some synergy. Now, DK is smart about this, so they're not going to give you all of the obvious ones. So like in tier 1, Ronald Acuna is significantly higher than everybody else with the median projection. Matt Olson is the second guy there. We don't have that confirmed lineup, but I believe in that matchup. I would probably go Ronald Acuna. You like him leading off. You like him being on the road. It's all but assured of 5 plate appearances, and he does have stolen base upside, which is key. He has not really been hitting the ball with a lot of power. He has not had his last double was a week ago, but he has 5 stolen bases in the last 3 games. So he would be tier 1. Mike Trout is tier 2. He is just head and shoulders above everybody else. Tier 3 is where it gets interesting because you have Kyle Tucker in a strong matchup, or you could go with some synergy with Ozzie Alzies. Ooh, that's a nice spooner, isn't there?
Try it again. 3rd time's the charm, Emac. Say his name.
Kyle Tucker and Ozzie Albies. Who do you like there in tier 3?
Sure. So I always am going to say in baseball, you want to be trying to stack. So with that in mind, when we get to tier 3, we should be starting to consider which players we have in other lineup spots. And actually, I don't agree with you in tier 2 either. So tier 1, I do like Acuna. Tier 2, like, yeah, if we were just basing who we wanted to play in MLB off projections, the answer is Mike Trout, but that's not really how I think we should be building baseball lineups. We should be trying to stack offenses. And there's nobody else I really like from the Angels. So when I'm looking at tier 2, my preference would be either to get to Austin Riley or Yordan Alvarez in tier 2 to get us a little bit more correlation in our lineup. So for tier 2, my preference is going to be going to Yordan Alvarez.
Okay. I am totally comfortable with that, Greg, and that definitely makes sense for that one. Tier 4, I like Jose Altuve. Lefty matchup, Haney giving up power. When healthy, he gets his strikeouts, but he is someone that breaks down. That doesn't mean it's going to happen today, but I like Altuve in that one. Tier 5, head and shoulders above everybody, is Vladimir Guerrero, but you have potential stacking there. Marcell Ozuna in a Remember Me game. How many people remember he played for the Marlins? Would you go stacking there, or would you push your chips in with Guerrero?
Yeah, so circling back to tier 3, one thing I really like about the tiers today is you can make a Houston Astros stack going up against Andrew Heaney. And Heaney's just such a hit or miss pitcher. When he's on, he's scoring fantasy points, he's generating strikeouts, but In the starts where he struggles, he gets lit up. He gives up a lot of home runs, a lot of hard contact. That's another reason too that I like the upside of the Houston Astros for the stacking correlation. So in tier 2, I like Yordan Alvarez. In tier 3, Kyle Tucker. Then tier 4, Jose Altuve. So we're able to make an Astro stack in tiers 2, 3, and 4 there. And then when we get to tier 5 and tier 6, there aren't really the stacking options we have from other tiers. So that's where I'm looking more for just like one-off hitters. So tier 5 for me would be Vlad Jr. And then tier 6, I'm looking at a Jarren Duran.
Okay. That sounds like the way to go.
And then also I'll answer. So for Franco in the chat, the sims that I am using to build my lineups are the stochastic sims. If you're looking on YouTube, there's a link below you could use to sign up for them. Over on Playback, we're just screen sharing us using the tools. So that's what's going on over at Playback. What Playback is it's a streaming platform kind of similar to YouTube, but it has other functions where you can like watch games on it while we're on screen as well. But if you want to sign up for any of our baseball packages, there's a link below in the description box on YouTube, and you can go check out all the different packages we have at Stochastic. We've got Sims package, and then we've also got data package. We've got a lineup generator package. We just want lineups built for you. So all those links are below if you want to go check it out. But over on Playback, you could see what it actually looks like in terms of what our Sims tool is. So sorry, what was that question, Emac?
No. That was totally good. I was just going to bring us back around to any other stacks we want to talk about. Any questions? We are 9 minutes away from lock here. I'm going to do one last look here at my 150 lineups that I'm doing. So looking at exposures here, I have capped my pitchers at 30, which leads me to Pepe, Manaea, Sale, Gore, and that's it. They're all coming in at 30. And then for some reason, I got a lot of Spencer Turnbull. I'm assuming it's a price situation here. But that is where I'm comfortable with that for my pitchers. I was getting like 50% Manaea until I did that. So I don't want to end up with too much of him.
We did get a super chat if you saw that one.
Let me get there. My apologies, guys.
Yeah, the old super chat. We got a Discord question as well. So what do you want to do first, Emac? Should we answer the Discord question or the super chat?
Do the Discord. I'm going to look up one thing here for Turnbull before I get my thoughts.
Okay. So Einsteinian wants to know, are the Twins a team that I'm interested in? Let's see. We've got the Twins. I'm about even with the field on the Twins as far as a stack. Where I really like the Twins is more so to save salary with some individual hitters on the team. So we do have the Twins with, I believe, the highest. Yeah, we do have the Twins with the highest odds being the top value stack on the slate. It's a weird spot because the Twins offense has been terrible this year. Kenta Maeda himself hasn't looked all that great. So you get this weird scenario where it's like, it's the stoppable force against the movable object. And Kenta Maeda, who's struggling at pitcher against Twins offense that's struggling to hit right now. It's not a team. I only have 4% Twin stack, so I'm not really loading up on them as far as a stack is concerned. But yeah, there are individual hitters that I'm getting to as one-offs. They are, let's see, who do I have the most of from the Twins? Yeah, I mean, I've got Julian in some lineups. I've got Kirilloff in some lineups. Christian Vasquez at catcher. None of these guys are more than 10% of lineups, so it's just like some individual one-offs to save salary from the Twins, but not a real priority as far as a 5-man stack.
All right, so quick thoughts on Turnbull. He had a tiny bit of prospect flair way back in the day with Detroit, never really capitalized on it, had a variety of injuries that took him out for extensive part of the middle portion of his career. He's going to be 32 this year. His fastball is also down 2 miles an hour from where it was last year. So it's in that 91, 92 mile an hour range. These are all things that don't line up as someone that you want to put your hard-earned money behind. The only positive is he's going against a Pittsburgh Pirates lineup. But frankly, he's terrifying, and I was going to go cap him in my lineups at about 17%. for that perspective. Because as I mentioned, he was someone that was coming up rather high for me. I couldn't figure out why, but now I am going to go make an adjustment on that. Did you get much Turnbull at all?
So I have so Turnbull's in my single entry lineup, just my lineup that projected best for single entry purposes has Turnbull in it. He's in 11% of my lineups for large field tournaments. He's just kind of a guy that's on the slate for me. But yeah, he's certainly a viable SP2 option. I'd say probably the biggest benefit of playing Spencer Turnbull is that he does give you a little bit of ownership relief off of guys like Sean Manaea and Mackenzie Gore. But I mean, for large field tournaments, we haven't projected for nearly, ownership in the teens. So not quite as popular as those guys. I'm a little bit underweight to him.
Right. Tristan Casas. How much did you end up with him? I like him as my home run of the day. And do you have any home runs?
I have Casas in 4% of my lineups.
All right, I have him in 12. And I'm going to upload this now because I do not want to screw that up. Let's get back here. See what else we have going on. Old YouTube. All right, we got the 2 super chats there. We mentioned we're in playback. We told everybody how to win or how to get $500 with their deposit match over there on Better. Timothy did not like the, hey, want to go see a dead body approach I did with that read. That was kind of fun. Shout out Stand By Me. You ever seen the movie Stand By Me?
I have seen the movie Stand By Me, not for a minute though. Also, I haven't watched very many movies lately. Maybe the summer will be more movie-going months for me, but I've got basketball to watch every night, Emac.
Indeed, in playback, which is a lot of fun. We've been hanging out there. You guys can hang out there. If anybody wants some MMA advice, put it in the chat here. See if there's any interest. If there's enough, Mr. Ehrenberg has said he will slide on over there to playback to answer questions for 10 or so minutes here after our show. We do have the live, he already has over on YouTube, a couple different videos breaking down key fights as well as the whole card. So we've got you covered there for MMA. Of course, we also have the Sims, which have been, I've been enjoying MMA more now that I have the Sims, because I don't understand. I understand MMA. I'm not as big of a follower as you and Josh and Lindquist and apparently producer Jacob. So I know most of the players because I got into it during COVID, Greg, but or the players, the fighters, but it's different. It's a weird sport.
Yeah. So by the way, if people in chat do want to, just let me know if you want me to hang out and answer MMA questions. I did it for like an hour last night, so there might not be any interest in it. But yeah, I mean, if there isn't a demand for that, then that's totally fine.
All righty. We are 2 minutes away from lock. Oh, somebody was asking whether outside of Oakland, which we'll want to pay attention to because we have Mackenzie Gore is likely to be a big part of your day. Oakland and the Dodgers game. Those were really the only ones that looked like they had too much or any weather worth noting, I should say. But yep. It's not.
By the way, we've got Dong picks. We got to finish with Dong picks, Emac. We only got like 90 seconds left here, and people want to know about Dong.
Tristan Casas.
All right, so Emac's going with Tristan Casas. Let's see. Which hitter do I want to go with here? Acuna. I think Acuna gets off the schneid today. I think the power, he's going to have a big season. Acuna always has a big season. He was the MVP last year. So far, the leader in the clubhouse for the NL MVP, it's got to be Mookie Betts, who's just been ridiculous so far this year. But yeah, give me Ronald Acuna to hit a home run today. I like him as a hitter. I'm well overweight too. Only single digit ownership going to Acuna, and I have him in 19% of my line. So Acuna is my Dom pick.
All right, we'll allow that, even though he's an amazing player. We'll allow that. I see someone asking about Crochet. Yeah, there's enough other pitchers I like better than him today, and they are plentiful with kind of the 5 we kept weaving throughout this show, so I did not get to that much Crochet. Let me see what I did weaving and crochet. Didn't even realize I did that. Let me quickly look and see where Mr. Crochet ended up. Spelled his name correctly. I ended up with 11% of Garrett Crochet. So not a lot.
We're at lock. So we are at lock. We did get a question. So there's only one MMA question. It was a question from Dan06712. He has a question about the MMA Sims. What is your question there, Dan? Also, head on over to playback. So let's end the show on YouTube. We'll head on over to playback and see if anybody has any questions there. So I'm going to close out of the Zoom here and head on over to the other side of things. Emac, close the show, and then we'll go to playback.
All righty. Well, with that, guys, remember, no MMA today. So this was our main show. As we mentioned, Greg's got the...
No, you're wrong. There is MMA today.
Sorry, no NBA.
There we go.
Greg has the MMA show already recorded for those of you that want to leisurely take a look at that. And then we are going to be back at it tomorrow with MLB Live Before Lock at 11 and then NBA Live Before Lock at noon. Remember, 2 waves of games tomorrow, the 1 o'clock wave and then the 3:30 wave. It's going to be pure chaos. There are quite a few teams that are still playing for something, and there are a lot that are just mailing it in. If someone will be the surprise, we don't know who, but we'll have fun trying to suss that out tomorrow. We're going to slide on over to playback so you guys can follow Greg Ehrenberg at G Ehrenberg DFS. I am at Emac DFS. Of course, it is stochastic_com. With that, gamers, good luck.